What if the most important outcome of a war is not who wins it, but how long it lasts? Right now, tensions involving the United States, Israel, Iran are being watched closely across the world. Most conversations focus on escalation, military strength, and immediate consequences. But in geopolitics, there is always a second layer, a quieter one, where the long term power shifts begin to take shape. And if this conflict were to continue for an extended period, one of the countries that could gradually gain strategical advantage is China, not because it is directly involved in the fighting, and not because war is beneficial in itself, but because prolonged conflict tend to reshape global focus, priority, and influence. The first shift happens in attention and resources. When a major power like the United States is engaged in a prolonged conflict, its military, diplomatic, and economic focus naturally becomes concentrated in that region. This does not mean it ignores the rest of the world, but its ability to prioritize multiple regions at the same intensity becomes more limited over time. That matters because global influence is not just about strength, it's about presence. If more attention is directed towards the Middle East, relatively less attention may be available for other regions, particularly the Indo Pacific. And that is a region where China has been steadily expanding its economic partnership, infrastructure projects, and regional influence over many years. The second shift is economy. Extended conflicts tend to disrupt global markets, especially energy markets. Oil prices become volatile, shipping routes faces uncertainty, and supply chains adjust under pressure. This creates challenges for all economies, including China. However, countries that are prepared for volatility through diversified trade networks, long-term infrastructure investments, and strategic reserves may be able to navigate this disruption more steadily than others. China has spent years building such systems, including large-scale trade corridors and alternative supply routes. While this does not eliminate risks, it can provide a level of resilience in uncertain conditions. The third shift is diplomatic position. In a situation where some countries are directly or indirectly involved in a conflict, others may take on the role of stabilizer, calling for dialogue, ceasefires, and negotiation. China has increasingly positioned itself in this way in various global situations. Over time, this kind of approach can influence how countries perceive global leadership. Nations looking for economic cooperation or political balance may engage more with partners who are seen as less directly involved in conflicts. This does not create immediate dominance, it builds long term relationship. In geopolitics, relationship often translate into influence. The fourth and most important shift is time itself. Prolonged conflict rarely produces quick, decisive decisive outcomes. Instead, they create slow moving changes. Economic pressure, political fatigue, shifting alliances, and evolving priorities. These changes do not always make headlines, but they shape the global system. If a conflict continues long enough, even small strategic advantage, more stable trade, consistent, consistent diplomacy, sustained focus can bring to add up. That's how influence grows. Gradual, not certainly. At the same time, it's important to stay balanced. A prolonged conflict in the Middle East would not be purely beneficial for China. Rising energy costs, global instability, and disturbed trade routes would also create serious challenges for its economy and long term growth. In reality, no major power is completely insulated from the effects of such a situation, but geopolitics is not about absolute outcomes, it is about relative positioning. positioning. In a world where one major power is heavily engaged in a prolonged conflict, another may find more rooms to expand its presence economically, diplomatically, and strategically. So, the real story is not just about conflict itself, it's about what happens around it. Because while the world focuses on the visible front lines, the deeper shift often happens quietly in the background, and those shifts are the ones that shape the future. Thank you.